Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me, because once again I'm messing around with my OBS setup, and mostly so that I could do the right camera position today. So, hey Rudy and Dave. So please let me know whether or not my audio is actually working this morning. Can you hear me? So, good. Yes, you can hear me. You can never trust the monitoring on OBS, you know. So, so today, what we're going to do is talk about hardware for a change instead of software. But it's not the kind of hardware you might be thinking it is. It is making game boxes. So, Adventure, the game that I've been working on forever, is going to come out in September at VCF Midwest. And I plan on having box sets of the game for sale. Due to some requests, I'm also going to do pre-sales. I haven't set it up yet, so that'll be coming. Hey, morning, Trina. It's a hardware stream, Trina. So, I do want to point out something this morning. So, Dave, thank you very much for the Macintosh computer mug. So, I've already had my coffee. Got up early this morning, but thank you. It works very well in a gravitational field. It does require gravity. So don't take it onto the space station with you. Morning, Garth. So anyway, so let's get into building a box. It's actually both easier and more difficult than you would think it is. The physical construction's actually pretty easy. It's getting your template set up. So let me switch cameras here. Get to the right camera. Okay, so this is my bench. Oh. Let me turn off the snowball. Okay, you should still be able to hear me through the headset. And if you can't hear me, let me know. So, can you hear me talking? Okay. So, anyway, what we've got here is a box. And this was my initial design. It's a telescoping box. So, what you would normally get for, a card game or any other kind of thing. If you had a couple of decks for cards, there's an excellent construction video available online, and there's a link in the live stream for it that I got the design from. So it was actually pretty straightforward to build. First thing you want to do, though, and I did not do this, so of course I started designing and building assets for the game. This is the draft of the survival guide, the manual for the game. And I thought it was important to make sure it was spiral bound so that you could lie the manual flat while you're using it. But you'll notice that it doesn't fit in this box. So I worked on the manual first, and I was going to buy boxes, and you can get any number of, there's plenty of companies that will pre-make a box for you. I don't have one handy here. I intended to have one, but anyway, so where they're just a flat box that are folded over and open at each end. So instead of a telescoping box, it's just, your traditional software box. But those cost money. And this is a game that's built on a budget. So let me switch views again here. We've got another camera. I'll give us a little better view. All right. So what you want to do actually is you want to collect all the stuff that you're going to put in your game manual. So let's say you're going to package all this stuff up into your game. And you want to make sure that you design a box that will fit. Or redesign your content so that it fits. One or the other. So I'm redoing the manual so that it's basically half this size. And I'll be able to get 4 pages on an 8.5 by 11 printout, so that I can make it fit in the box. Oh yeah, something else too. So thanks to recommendation from Gut Bomb, I'm putting everything on a CD. You would think I could just drop the game on a floppy. I mean, it's for a classic Mac, right? Well, the audio files take up a lot of space. So it would be like, I don't know, 40 floppy disks. I'm not doing that. So I'm going to have a CD. And you'll notice from my initial design of the box, you can't fit a CD in here. It's a couple of millimeters too small. So redesigned it. You do have to be careful to work within your limitations. I am printing these on a laser printer. It'll take 8.5 inch wide paper. So this is what I ended up with. This is basically the maximum size box I can make that still gives me, enough space here. So, that's basically 3.5 millimeter or 35 millimeters deep by 13 centimeters wide and 18 centimeters long. For you guys with Eagle units, it's about 7 inches by 5 inches by 1.5. This is basically the maximum limit for the box, and you'll notice the manual still doesn't fit. The good news is the CD does fit, so we solved that problem. I was talking to my wife too, and she's like, well, of course you're going to put it on a CD, aren't you? And I'm like, okay. I was just going to have people download the content. I'll still have it available for download, but there you are. So you need a couple of things to build a box. This is chipboard, and you could use recycled cereal box cardboard. It wouldn't be quite this thick. This is basically not quite a it's like 0.8 millimeters. I believe it's 0.03 of an inch. So this is considered medium weight chipboard. You can get heavy, you can get light. Light would be like cardstock. So here's some cardstock. So you could do cardstock or something, but you'd have a rather flimsy box, and you want it to be able to stand up to being put on a shelf and all that. So you need chipboard for the structure of the box. You need some kind of printable media if you're going to build a box that has a label on it. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how much of that you missed because, of course, I'm not watching the monitor, but my headset turned off. Um, okay, so you need chipboard. You need some kind of printable label material so you can put a label on. Now, I went with a complete wraparound for the box. So my label stock needs to be big enough that I can wrap the entire box with it. So I can get the sides and everything. You can just use a smaller thing and lay labels on the top and the sides, and maybe get solid white chipboard or something like that so that you could build a box that way. But the label serves a dual purpose. It's also the structure to hold the box together. So you've got these panels for the structure of the box, but the label puts it all together. You could use gum tape or something like that to hold your box together and then just slap a label on the outside, but then you'd see the seams a little bit easier. Anyway, this was the cleanest way to do it and the simplest way for me. All right, so you got your materials. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Now you got to build it. So before you build it, you got to design it. So there's two templates here because with a telescoping box, the inside is a little smaller than the outside, right? And you could design this to get a tight fit, but if you do that and you have the lid of the box is basically the same size as the base, you're going to need punch outs, circular indentations on the lid so that you can open it up. Because if you make a tight box, you're going to have a hard time getting it open. So I opted to make it simple. It's just a fairly loose box. And there are templates out there. The guy that I linked to for the video from England, he hasn't done a video in 3 years. So he must have gone on to do something else. Anyway, he has a template that you can download for this. But it's pretty simple. You could design your own. You've got the height of the box here represented by these pieces. So you got your two ends and the sides. The lid is going to be a little bit bigger than the insert. And you'll notice these offsets for the baseline. So you've got this square piece or rectangular piece here for the base. It is not quite as wide on the long side, and that's because, and it'll be apparent when we build the box, you need to actually have this long sides butt up to the end of the ends so that you can make a stronger box. If you were using a lot thicker material, you would cut a 45-degree angle bevel and then put the pieces together. But this is a simple box. He also has a video on making a larger, stronger box where he uses that technique. So I went ahead and printed new templates because the ones that I am currently using are starting to wear out. So I use this as a guide for cutting. And it's fairly stiff material, but it does wear. If you were going to make 1,000 boxes, I'd suggest buying the boxes, not trying to make them yourself. So let's go ahead and let's cut out a new lid. So you want to line things up. Now you could just hold this down and cut. I find that that's kind of a tempting fate. So I actually tape down. what you're working on. You know, it doesn't have to line up perfectly. The chipboard really doesn't have a direction to it because of how it's constructed. It's really just a mat of fibers. So you don't have to worry about it being perfectly aligned or anything like that. Okay, so I've got the 4 sides on here. Let's take a minute to look at the, look at the comments. Who do we got? We've got Dave's Vinted at Apple Tech, and Rudy's Retro Intel, and Trina's Technobabble, Garth Beagle, sharing his design for a box, kind of basic. Billgoats, good morning. Big Bad Biologist, Big Bad Bench, good morning. Do we have anyone else? Trina made a comment. I am disappointed so far. Not as much jank as one of Big Bad Biologist's hardware streams. Well, wait, we're going to use sharp implements of torture. I could cut my finger off with an X-Acto knife. I've tried to do it before. I promise I'll try to minimize the blood this time. Anything DG. Happy Saturday. All right. So, thanks for everybody joining this morning. All right. So, you should use a steel ruler. Do not try to do this with a paper one. Or a wood ruler or something like that, because you'll regret it. You want to line up. Now, when I designed this, I added marks, extra marks to it, so that I had some registration lines for lining up the ruler. And this is the tedious, boring stuff from the video. So you want to do a light line running along your, and score it multiple times. Do not try to push the blade all the way through all at once. And you don't have to score it all the way through. You know, you can see it's starting to, maybe you can see that it's starting to get cut through a little bit. Because you can use your, a couple of swipes of the blade to dig enough of a trench that you can follow that without the template, if you're careful. You do want to be precise here. If you get wonky sides, your box is going to be a little wonky. It's also important that the overlay, the wrap for the box, line up with your lid and base, or you're going to have problems with the corners of the box. Where's our transparent aluminum? Because if we had transparent aluminum, it would be easier to line this up. Okay. I do the outer edges first. You can kind of set your blade on there and then move the ruler to it. Nice even pressure. Go past the beginning and the end of the, the line. Okay. So What's everybody working on today? You know, the audio keeps shutting off on this damn thing. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to, well, let's see, cover what I said. So you can see where I screwed up the line here and fixed it. So here's where the offset, I was a little far off. But you get the idea. You want to be precise and cut it out. Once you've got the line cut, though, you can basically follow it and redo the trench. You know, I think the headset must be, I'm using Linux now instead of Windows. And I bet you this headset is set somehow to turn off after a period of time. I don't know, I'll have to figure it out. It's one of the challenges with Linux is not everything works exactly the way that you expect it to, and sometimes it takes fiddling to get it to work right. So I'm going to set up my snowball because it doesn't have that problem. And hopefully it'll be close enough you can get the audio from it without issues. So bear with me a second. Okay, drop the headset, I'm back to the snowball. And I think you guys can hear me okay, so. Alright, so anyway, you want to score along these lines, get it all cut out. You can see how it's coming out. The chipboard will tear sometimes if your blade's not sharp, so you want to make sure you got a set of blades so that you can switch them out occasionally. I think they're good. These blades seem to last for, I don't know, 20 boxes. So it's pretty good shape. Alright, so I've already cut a whole bunch of these. So I've got plenty to make boxes here. But we need to also have the labels cut. So here's your printed label. I've got some single pixel registration marks so that I know exactly where to cut, because I don't want these to really show up that much on the printout, you know, with the final box. You can see I've got an offset here. Maybe you can't. So I don't draw the lines all the way across because I don't want the lines to show up on the box. So you need to cut out one of these labels. Now the outside edge wraps around to the inside of the box, so it's not hypercritical that you get that line right. So we'll do that. So after building as many as I have and having to revise things, I can see why people would spend the money to buy boxes that are pre-printed. Okay, so I'll line up on that. That's exactly where the corner of that base sits, so you don't want to cut past that point. So yeah, it's pretty tedious. I'm doing a first run of 50 boxes. So there you are. One of the things you got to worry about with these labels too is they tend to tear. So if you're doing a very sharp corner, it'll tear. Your first cut's the safest one, so you want the exposed edge to be the first cut because you can hide a certain amount of nastiness inside the box. So this is the danger zone here. Now these labels are fairly inexpensive, so they're not that dense. You can actually see through them a little bit. So for this fold under section, I'm actually removing some of the ink. And again, you don't have to be so precise on this because it goes on the inside of the box. And it's not a critical measurement. So I'm fine with just trimming off the printed portion of it. So you can see how it tears out a little bit there. Nice even strokes. You know, if you're doing a one-off box to replace a game, maybe you got a game or something that's your favorite and you've worn out the box on it. See, it tore right there. I'm not. There's your jank. There's a little bit of jank on this stream. So it's a good way of making a simple box, I think. So if you want to avoid tear out, really light pressure, score it very gently, wait until you cut through that label material to press down. One of the things I noticed when I printed this the first time, I bought a Brother laser printer thanks to a very generous donation by and suggestion for a printer from Eric Helgeson. It's got the less expensive toner. HP's probably the most expensive you can get. But one of the problems I ran into when I printed it the first time was this started to flake off. The image on the front started to spot. Any place where you rubbed up against it or scratched it, or you know, uh, just sliding the ruler across it like this would tear out chunks of the image. And I was like, great, now I'm stuck with art that's gonna wear off. I just grabbed a can of spray glaze. I think it's semi-gloss. And spray it with that. The old school way of doing it would have been a can of hairspray. Would be a cheap way of doing it, but I suppose you could still get hairspray. But I wouldn't suggest using hairspray. Okay, so we got that. We got this corner to do. And just spray the top of it, and that was enough to seal the top. So that it can be handled. So that was something I discovered when I started working on these. Okay. And again, the dimensions for the flaps are not critical here. So you got a little bit of leeway there. All right, so we got our cover. Now I got to double check to make sure I'm using the right parts. I don't want to put use the base pieces on the cover. So I'm going to get one of my templates. Oops. Just measure it to make sure I got the right part. Okay, so this is the top pile. If I grab one of the bases, you can see it's a little bit shorter. So I got the right pile. You've got two sides. And you can see here how it, you get a dull knife, it starts to tear out. This is still usable. Whoops. Okay, audio's still working, so the snowball doesn't have a problem. Which is good. Oh yeah, and we need the base. So there's the parts of your box. So again, a little bit of tear out from this is a new blade, so it's not as much of a problem. All right. So now here's the challenging part, and I was doing this for a while. These little registration dots, I was using a lancet to mark the spot where those are so that I could see it from the other side, but I found that after doing this for a while I didn't need those holes. Ouch. But that'll give you a little bit of a visual indicator of where the corners are for the base. Because what you want to do is position this And so that's why the measurements are so precise. You want this position so that these corners are right on the corners for the wraparound. That way, when you make the box, you've got everything centered on there. You can see this is it's offset a little bit. It's not quite centered, but it's good enough. So what we got going on in the chat? Yeah, polyurethane doll coat that you use on, do you mean water decals or Walter decals? I'm not familiar with the term. But anyway, so we got this cut out. My blade's loose. Now you can see how I'm really pushing the edges here. There was no room to cut off excess on that. Now you don't want to, there is a technique to this. You do not want to pull the entire backing off your label. Otherwise you're gonna, the first point that you drop it down, it's stuck there, and you're going to be unhappy with the position of it. So what you do is you fold back a little bit of the label, and you put this down here. The backing to the label forms a little bit of a ridge and a buffer so that it holds it above the work. Then you can eyeball this and say, okay, am I in the corner? You know, is it straight? And then you press down on the edge there to hold it in place and peel back the rest of your label. Well, one of the things you got to be careful of on these big flat sections, peeling the label off straightforward, it just peels off. You know, I'm pressing this down a little bit as I go. When you get to where you've got angles and cutouts, if you just pull on this, you're likely to tear it. So you need to kind of guide the backing off. There we go. Okay, that's fairly well centered. Now, could this be better? Yeah, my template for the chipboard is not quite exactly the same size as the label. I struggled with this for a while. You need to make sure when you print these, I use GIMP. When you go to print, you want to make sure your scale is 100%. That it's not resizing your print. And I'm pushing the limits of what fits on a label. You know. So with some of the earlier ones that I worked on, I was like, why is this not, you know, I got these calipers out. Whoops, I don't want to get stuck on there. And I was measuring between my dots here, the measuring tool in the image, and then also what was printed out, and it wasn't coming out exactly the same. And I'm like, what's going on with this? Well, I finally realized when I looked at the detailed print settings that it was scaling the image. And that's a problem. You don't want it to scale the image. You want it to print 100% exactly the way you've got it dimensioned. What I had to do, what I was doing is my image dimensions were 8.5 by 11 inches. And printers don't print all the way to the edge of the paper. So I trimmed the image so that it was less than 8.5 by 11. Not by a lot, because I'm really using up quite a bit of the print size here. By doing that, by scaling this image so it was less than that, I was able to print it at 100%, no scaling, and that worked. Okay, so we got our back on here. Now you would think you just, oh well, I just need to put the ends on and stick the sides on there, and then Bob's your uncle. That's not quite what you need to do. Get a scrap piece of your side material with a straight edge. What you want to do is you want to be able to put your box end vertical, butted up right against the edge of the box. So if I were to put this right up against the edge and then tried to turn it to fold it up, you've got a corner there of the label that ends up getting stretched. And you'll see this on some boxes that people have printed. They print out a label and everything, or they print out the box material, and then they fold the box up, and it tears and strips out the corner of the box. I'll have to, dig up an image and put it in the chat. But basically, so what you want to do is have a spacer here that's the exact width of the box. The ends are actually wider than the base, and it'll be more obvious when we get there. So now you got to kind of visually line this up so that it's the width of the label, and then you pull this off. Now you got the gap there that you need. You don't lay this down. Believe me, I made this mistake first time I was doing this, because there's a trick for burying your reinforcement for the corner underneath. Now what you want to do, you want to get the other corner on first. So we're gonna get the other end on. So if you got a piece that's got a little bit of an irregular edge, it's a little rough, take the good corners and make them the edge of your box. Bury the rough edge inside. This label material is very sticky. Okay, this one's off slightly because I'm talking instead of paying attention to what I'm doing, so it's not going to be a perfect box, but it'll be good enough. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to take one of these side pieces, and this one you want to butt right up against the edge. Put it in place like that. Now you lift your, get off there. You want to lift your corner up, and it butts against the edge, the outside edge of this. So that's why this is almost a millimeter and a half wider than the base, so that you've got a corner that is butt edged together. It's a little, let me see if I can lift this up. So you can see it. So what I'm doing is I'm butting this right up against the edge there. It's easier to do if it's lying flat. And then smooth over your corner. You want to try to get that as tight as you can on that corner. And that forms the inside of your box. Okay. Then you want to do this side. Now, this one's off a little bit. It's not quite butt, but you know what? The tolerances are such that you can angle it in slightly just to make sure that it butts up against there, and it'll be good enough. There is a little bit of wiggle room here. Okay, let's get the other side on. a little bit easier to line up because you've got those ends. Okay. Get it in there so that you don't have a gap. Put it up along the edge, fold it over, then do your last corner. Okay, so now we got the your box shape, and it's not perfectly lined up, but it's pretty good. Then you want to kind of encourage that corner to line up. Now you could just grab this and press it up there, but I find that you end up with bubbles and streaks, and this stuff is not forgiving when it comes to this. So what I do is I push it onto the corner, and you're pressing on the inside of it towards the bottom or the top of the lid so that you get a nice smooth transition. So encourage it to fold in the right spot. Lay it down, flip it over. And you buried the flaps. Now, it's not perfect. I didn't get this lined up exactly right. My template's a little shy of the edge, but I find that it's better if it's a little shy so that you don't have a bunch of material trying to wrap around the corner. Oh. Comment. By the way, if you don't cut off the edge, just score them on the outside. You'll have, oh yeah, true. Hey, no worries about, for those of you, not everybody knows this, but I've got several volunteers that are voicing people or creatures and various characters in the game. And some people have submitted stuff, but I have until the end of August really to burn the CDs. Don't really want to be doing it the night before VCF, okay? So if you've committed to doing audio for the game, don't worry about it. You got plenty of time. Just don't wait till the last minute. Some people have gotten theirs in. I'm voicing some characters. I haven't done them all myself yet. But don't worry about it. You got time. If you can't get to it and it just doesn't work out, that's fine too. I'll voice them myself. So don't sweat it. But it is going to be fun having multiple characters voiced. So even though it's a text adventure game, there is some additional features to it. There's audio. There's a little bit of music and some sound effects. Okay, so now you want to bend over these corners, or the ends. Again, you can just fold it over. It'll probably be good enough. I like to do it this way, where I'm pressing towards the inside of the box. I'm sorry, you probably can't see that. So I'm basically pressing towards the inside, and then I run my thumbnail over it to square up the edge. So now you've got an edge on the inside. Okay, then do the same thing here. I'm pressing towards the inside of the box and then running my back of my thumb across there to get a nice edge. So you can see how I'm really using the maximum width of this label. I'm almost too narrow on this side. I probably could adjust my label print a little bit so that it was centered a little better, but that's good enough. You know, it works. It's there. You got a lid to a box. And then cut out the bottom, build the bottom, and you've got top and a bottom. Oh, let me switch cameras here for a second. Oh. Have to move my mic. So that's pretty much how you build one of these boxes. It's pretty straightforward. It does take time. That's the one thing. I plan on making 50 for the initial run. I'm gonna do, you know, like 1/50, 2/50 written on the box, so they'll all be, you know, like you would for a limited run of prints. I'll sign them. So these will be signed boxes, and they will, I am setting up pre-orders. Not everybody can go to VCF Midwest, and I understand that, and my intent was to just sell them there. And then later people could order stuff, but I've had enough people ask about pre-orders that I'm going to go ahead and set that up so that you can pre-order if you want. A note to the people that are contributing audio for characters, as a thank you for going to the time and effort and trouble of doing that, you'll be receiving a boxed game. So there's no need to purchase one if you're actually contributing audio to the, you know, speech to the thing. That doesn't mean you can't buy one if you want to. Okay. But you know, that's my gift back to the community for doing this. So, yeah, Dave, yeah, I'll have it for you at VCF. But you know, I'm really enjoying this. It's a lot of work. It's been a long time, and a lot of effort put into it. But I learned quite a bit doing this, and there'll be more. I really enjoyed building that game. I've got plans for, you know, like a follow-on game for it. Yeah, and I appreciate that. Like I said, if you're contributing audio to a character, you're getting a box anyway. But I'm not going to turn away your money if you guys want to buy one. The game will be available as just a strictly digital download later. But you know, the boxes are so that you have an artisanal, you know, something you can put on your shelf, because I think it's important that you actually have physical media. I miss having manuals. When you buy software, you used to get a printed manual that you could sit and read. You didn't have to have a computer to actually read the manual. I don't have a CD printer. What I'm going to do is buy the labels for the discs, and very carefully, because I know if you don't have them quite lined up, then you have balance issues for the CDs. I am going to try that though. If that doesn't work, there are, and Ron did this, there are places that you can order pre-printed CDRs that are, you know, they'll even give you blanks so that you can just buy blank ones. And I'll do that if the labels prove not to work. So, yeah, see, if I were going to go into full-time production, or if I really needed to print that many, I would not be doing this by hand. I would be buying pre-made materials. But part of the fun in doing this is building your own, and that's why I'm doing it this way. There is also laser etching that you can do for blank CDs. There are CDs that have inkjet material on them so that you can print with an inkjet printer. But again, I really, the biggest single expenditure was the laser printer for the manual and the labels. So that's going to be it for that. There are some goodies that are going into the box. I'll mention some of them. There's several characters in the game, and I'm 3D printing little figurines for those characters. You probably can tell from the title there's a duck. That's actually going to be a little tiny yellow rubber duck, hard plastic, but that I purchased that's going into it. There'll be a few labels, stickers, I mean, for the game, and of course the printed manual. The game also comes with the editor for creating your own games. Yes, what the duck. So not only is Adventure a game, it's also a game engine, and frankly, most of the programming was building the editor so that you could create your own adventure games with it. There will be bugs. I guarantee that there's going to be bugs that go out with the released version, but I will have free updates for people that purchase the game so that they'll be able to get corrections and things like that. The editor is still a work in progress, but it'll be done by VCF. The Gutbomb also suggested doing the traditional shareware Ziploc bag. So I'll probably have lower priced options where you can get just a CD with an instruction card, and the CD will have PDFs of the manuals and stuff like that on it, so that you'll be able to refer to them digitally or print them yourself. So that'll be available in a little shrink wrap or a little bag. What else am I going to do? It's not just going to be the bare box. I'm actually going to buy some heat shrink bags for it so that it'll be in a bag. And there's other things. The next version of the game is going to have, I'm not going to call it an artificial intelligence. It'll have an expert engine in it that will allow it to have better dialogue with the characters. You can more of a choose your own adventure where your choices will alter how the game behaves much more. So it's not really an adaptive game, but it'll be something more like, you could choose to be the evil one, or you could be good, or whatever, and it'll affect your alignment and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the next version of the game. Just go to your nearest Apple reseller with an empty floppy, and they'll give you a copy of the patch with the bug fixes. Yeah. Anyway, so that's pretty much what's going on with it. If anyone's interested in contributing to the game, I have a Ko-fi, and there's also Patreon. If you just $1, if you do a one-time contribution of $1, I'll still list you in the credits of the game, both in the credits portion of the game that plays, as well as the manual. And then, but you can always subscribe and support my content going forward. And of course, you'll be able to purchase a box set of the game. Later, I'll do a cheap digital download version of it where you don't have to, it'll be, I don't know, itch.io or something like that, or maybe you just do it through Ko-fi. I don't know. I have to set up pre-orders. I haven't done that yet, so the pre-orders will be for the box initially. Yeah. This has been my life for the last 3 years, basically. I haven't produced as much video content as I wanted to. But there you are. Okay, so it's been an hour. I want to thank everybody for joining. And I will see you in the next video. I have a whole bunch of boxes to make. And they don't make themselves. The hardest part's cutting. I guess that's it. See y'all later. Here comes the outro. Excuse me. Boy, that coffee really hits you first thing in the morning. Thanks, everybody.